Hello, I'm Emily Hinshelwood. I'm currently enrolled on 3.3 major project with the OCA in visual communications. And I'm going to do a short video to talk a little bit about where I'm at with my project, how it fits into my overall inquiry, and a little bit about my thoughts for my exhibition, which I would like a little bit of feedback on, which would be fantastic. Um, so my project for the last 3 or 4 years has been to investigate what colour is. It sort of kicked off when I realised that my paint box, my watercolour paint box, were full of colours that were made through processes, industrial chemical processes, um, that were having quite a bit of damage to the environment. And given that it just felt like it was very much against everything that I believe in. So I started down a whole trajectory of finding out how to make colour through natural pigments and using natural objects, berries, leaves, rocks, anything that I could find, really. And alongside that inquiry, I've also, and this is part of my dissertation, and a lot of my work has been about how can we get closer or feel more a part of the natural world. I suppose my fundamental belief is that the more we appreciate, the more we get closer to the natural world, and the more we feel that we are actually part of the natural world, the more chance we've got of addressing the biodiversity crisis that we're facing at the moment. So, with my main focus, my main aim being how can we connect more to the natural world? How can we feel more connected to the natural world? I wanted to choose a major project that would not only help me to feel more connected, but also to make openings for other people to feel more connected. And with with the last 3 years of inquiry into natural colour, I felt that it was an obvious route to seeing if I could open up some of those doors for other people. And I decided that as it was my 60th birthday year this year, I could involve all of my friends and family in this project, some of whom are really not connected to the natural world. So I thought it would be an interesting inquiry to create a palette of colours that that represent all the friends and family that I love, that are part of my life, that have been part of my life's journey. So I sent an invitation to all the people in my life to invite them to send me something from the natural world, berries or leaves or whatever, anything, that I could then create a pigment out of. And then with all these pigments, I could create a palette, a life palette of all the people that matter to me. So I'm halfway through the year, and I've been sent so many different things to make colour out of, which is really fun. Some things that I didn't think would make any colour at all. Some things that have required quite a bit of research. I've been on a paint making course, which has really helped me to understand more about making paints from rocks. I've been on courses where I've learned how to make lake pigments, where I've researched how to make inks from all sorts of different materials. My latest is that someone gave me reeds from her bassoon. And I spent ages thinking, how am I going to make colour out of these? Like that, she's just given me five little of the reeds, that she blows through. And I've decided to uh, disentangle them from the copper wire and try to make verdigris from the copper. So so far it's been a real journey and lots of experimenting, which has been great fun. So I've got 98 colours so far, and it includes lichens, it includes as well as berries and what's lovely actually is that going through the year, obviously I've had different things according to what's out there. So at the moment, we're in August. It's been a really, really hot summer, so things are going to berry quite soon. So I'm getting berries. I've had cherries. I've had rowan berries, and then as we go into the winter, I'm going to be getting different things. Right at the beginning of the year, I've been learning so much about nature too, and everything that people give me, I research. I find out something new about something in the natural world. So whether they're words or whether they're botanical processes, it's so far been absolutely fascinating. One of the things I am finding is that the documenting is uh, is quite onerous, because not only am I, learning about how to make ink or paint from each item, but I'm also obviously wanting to kind of document it and make I make a little swatch for everyone, so everyone's got a swatch. Um, I realised that things don't last very long. So even when I have made a swatch, the colour fades on the swatch. But also the ink that people have given me at the beginning of the year, especially if it's a red, it's really fugitive. It doesn't last for very long. So just the colour goes, but also the inks go a bit mouldy. So there's a little bit of panic there, because everyone's saying to me, so are you going to create something amazing with all the colours? Are you going to paint something? And that is that is proving it will be very difficult to do that, because not all of the colours will last till the end. So I won't have all the colours at the same time. So I thought I would send you some examples of the colour swatches that I make for each colour. So every person that gives me a colour receives one of these, and then I keep some for myself. So I have a collection of all the colours. So obviously there's the colour at the top, and then there's the name of the colour. So I have asked everybody to give me a name for their colour. Not everybody does, and if that's the case, then I tend to make that up myself. And they'll usually send me a reason why they've chosen that colour, because I have asked them for a kind of reason, or sometimes it's a memory of a person, sometimes it's a place that they love, sometimes it's a food that they love, or there's a story behind it. So I usually try to coax a name that reflects something along those lines. Then I put the actual item that they've given me. So, for example, in the first one on the left, the Iwan Dyfynnog, that is yew leaves from apparently the oldest yew tree in Wales, place called Dyfynnog. And so they're yew leaves, and then the botanical name I put in as well, if I know what it is. And then I put the name of the person, and in this case it's Robin and Ira, who gave that to me, gave me a plastic bag full of yew leaves, which took about 5 days to extract a colour. And then you probably might not be able to see it, but at the bottom I've got the number of the colour and the month that it was given to me in, and then the location on the right. So so the second one, for example, is coral, which is Japanese maple. which was from my partner's dad, so my father-in-law, Daniel McCallum Senior, and he's obsessed by acers. His whole garden is full of acers, and this was one of his favourite, which had a kind of red bark, and it's called a coral maple, and it didn't come as red as we'd hoped, but it's still a lovely colour. Then Aztec. So this is actually Paper got this from the health food shop. So it's a kind of nutrient, but it's called spirulina, and it's a cyanobacteria. So it's actually comes as a powder, and it was the first thing that first green that I came across, which was great because it's really, really hard to get green. Um, but the problem is that it goes off very quickly and it really smells. It's like rotting food. Um, so I've tried. So this was I made this into an ink, but I've also made it into a paint, and more recently, I've added it to alcohol, and then I've strained it off, and it comes a very pale green, but it hasn't gone off yet. And then the one on the right, that's rhododendron petals. So Philly, Kirsty, and Lyra sent me a big bag of dried rhododendron. We really hoped that it would be a pink colour, and it is pink when it first goes on the page, but then it goes to a lovely kind of rich kind of pinky brown. There's a lot of browns, which I think some people are quite disappointed by, but they're all different. I'm finding that roses tend to go brown as well, so they're calm and they're lovely pink or rich dusky colours, and then they go brown. Blues go brown, so I had bluebells from a friend, which were beautiful, and their story behind it was that they met in the bluebell season and they had their first kiss in the bluebell season. So the colour is called First Kiss, and it's brown. But it's all part of experimenting, and that is one thing that I have really learned is that reds and pinks don't really last very long. But what I have discovered is important for me to do is to scan these swatches while they still have their colour, which I didn't do at the beginning, and I'm really regretting that. But so here are some of the absolutely gorgeous colours. Berry Donna, which was Mahonia berries from a friend's garden. So they spent ages trying to work out what they should give me. They absolutely love this plant and decided that, and it was incredible. The berries were so rich in colour. I actually got 3 different pots of ink from these berries. Unfortunately, they are very fugitive, so they didn't last for very long. I should have frozen the berries, but I can ask them for some more because they're still good friends. This one's Surprise, a yellow, fantastic colour, and this was from a friend, Sandra, who is a dyer, so she knows all about dye plants, and she's given me plants that I've now got in my garden that I can get more colour from them. And this one was Coreopsis. It's a perennial, and the yellow colour is amazing. Alison's Glutton, which is her cherries from Kent, which came a beautiful dusky pink colour. And then these two, which I thought were really interesting, 2 different kinds of blacks. You might not be able to see the different colour blacks, but so the top one is oak marble galls, oak gall ink, which I've been making for quite a long time now, which is just fantastic, and that is oak galls with a dash of iron in to make it go black, and that's quite a fun thing to do. But then underneath is diamond black, which is, I live in the Welsh Valleys coalfields, and so this is from a friend who's a miner and was mining this piece of coal that he mined before the pits closed, and this I've ground into a paint. So it hasn't had any additives like the one above, the Twelfth Night. It's called Twelfth Night because in Twelfth Night Shakespeare makes reference to how much gall you have in your ink, um, which it's a play on words, but it refers to how much oat galls you've got in your ink to make it black enough, which I quite liked. So that's a kind of just like an overview of some of the colours that I've received and some of the ways that I've processed them and some of the problems and complications that I've had over the course of the year. So in addition to making the colours, which actually feels like a big enough project as it is, making the colours, but because everybody has been saying to me, what am I going to make out of it? I'm sharing some of these with you as well. I decided at the very start that every day of the year I would go outside, make a connection with the natural world in some form, and write a poem or something, and then a drawing or painting or something with my ink, with my paints, my pigments. So every day I have created some form of connection and responded to it creatively. So I'm just going to flick through a few of these, um, just to give you a sense of how I'm using the inks. Sometimes I'll go out at the end of the day. In this example, I've watched the sun go down, and notice the birds flying or the trees or something. This one, I do a park run every Saturday. So this is about the Himalayan balsam, which is a non-native variety of plant, which is kind of colonizing quite a lot of the area where I go running. Then I plant vegetables as well. So these are some of my tomatoes. And then unusual situations. So I had been outside all evening trying to kind of commune with nature. And then I come inside and find a frog inside the study. So there's that transition from out and in, which I'm really enjoying. Especially as so for example, a frog, it is a kind of metaphor for switching between locations. So it's a kind of in the water to breed and have babies, and then it comes out of the water, so it moves between spaces. This was in London. There was an urban fox that was really, really tame. And then recently I've made friends with the emperor dragonfly, which has become quite a big part of my life. And so yeah, so just a few like images here. I really love pattern. So there's quite a few of my pictures have natural patterns that I have noticed outside, and then I will represent those in my work. Rowan berries, the sort of pentagram on the bottom of rowan berries. Situations. So when I was in Birmingham, there was quite a busy road, and there was just a goose standing in the road, which was not so uncommon in the country where I live, but it was a bit incongruous seeing that in the centre of Birmingham. Staying at a friend's where there was a swallow's nest up in the roof of the little hut that I was staying in. Lots of frogs, miniature frogs that had hatched all over our lawn, and they were just climbing up. They were just the size, like half the size of my thumbnail, and they were hopping all over the grass. And then this was actually a dream that I had, and then I went outside to see if it had come true. Some of the plants in so this was what's it called, hydrangeas. Yeah, so the hydrangeas are different colours according to the pH of the soil, and I found that really interesting. So as you see on the left, I've now been doing this for 8 months. So I've got 8 months worth of little books. And on the right hand side, just I've also been taking ideas from my pictures in my little books, um, ones that I've the pictures that I like or patterns that I like. In this case, it was the spirulina, so the Aztec um, ink that has started to go a bit blue, and then dropping a bit of oak gall ink onto it, it created this really lovely reaction that I liked that reminded me of frog spawn. So I'm kind of experimenting as well and taking ideas from my small books. So, for example, here again, so this is actually hibiscus ink, which was really, really lovely and red or dark pink. It's changed now, it's gone grey, but and that's on a background of daffodil ink, which has remained a beautiful yellow colour. So I've also been experimenting with other processes, one of which is dyeing. Um, Lots of people think that I'm making dyes anyway. um, and having met Sandra and getting involved a little bit in the Weavers and Spinners and Dyers group, I thought I really ought to try dyeing some wool. So I bought some unbleached wool, undyed wool, so kind of raw but spun wool, and I experimented. I decided not to use the things that people had given me, apart from one thing, because you need a lot of dye material. So I had 5 skeins of wool, and I tried with blackberries, which are amazing at the moment. There's tons of blackberries. Safflower, which is available in the in packet form as a culinary thing. So I got several packets of that. I used tea, 30 tea bags. Then hibiscus, which I also had from the shop, and I know that's a really strong dye. And then avocado stones, which my sister gave me, and she gave me lots of them. And I had experienced avocado stone dyeing before, and I knew it went a pink colour. So I was quite excited about trying these dyes. It was a really interesting process. So these are the colours that came out, and I was so chuffed with the colours. So it's tea on the left, then hibiscus, then the avocado, which is the pink in the middle, the blackberry, second to the right, and then the safflower, the yellow on the end. So I'm really looking forward to making something with these. Not a massive amount of wool, but I think again that's something that I can show in my exhibition. So, as my project has gone on over the course of these 6 months, I have been mulling over how I want the sharing to take place. And a lot of people have said it'd be really great to see everyone else's colours and come along and see an exhibition of everything that you've made with the colours and things like that. And I found this quite daunting, really, because I don't quite know what to do with the colours that merits an entire exhibition. Um, so I've been kind of mulling over the idea that actually it is a culmination of my whole 3.1 and 3.2 and 3.3, and whether my exhibition should take in more than just these are the colours that I have made. And this is like a palette of people that I care about. I've been thinking more and more that I want to include the whole journey that I've been on and where it came from. So making colours representing people, it's not just a kind of fun thing to do. It's actually integral to the my journey to move away from synthetic colours. Um, and as part of my 3.2 um, course, I was sort of moving towards this idea of um, how disconnected humans are from or particularly humans in Western society are, in terms of recognizing us as part of the web of life. Um, I'm an anthropologist, so I'm kind of really interested in how different cultures do connect themselves to the natural world and do recognise that we are absolutely integral to this web, but also how removed our sort of Western society and all how our society has created boundaries to stop people from feeling that they're part of the natural world. And my dissertation was very much about what taboos we have in place to stop people from recognising them being as part of the natural world. And I think that those taboos are what enables us to destroy the natural world. So, although in the exhibition I don't want to be putting up my dissertation and things like that, I do want that concept to be a key theme in the exhibition. And one of the things that I made in 3.2 was life membership packs, recognising everybody to be a life member of the natural world. And it was a kind of tongue-in-cheek a pack that was based on the kind of packs you get when you join the National Trust, or cycling membership, or whatever. So, for example, had a little pack which had the membership card, and it had a little ideas for how to connect to the natural world. But it's basically fundamentally saying you are part of the natural world. Welcome, enjoy it. You can bring your family. You can you don't have to connect through the internet, but you can connect through the wood wide web. So I also would like this concept to be in the exhibition. So I've been mulling this over, and what I'd quite like to do is for the exhibition to kind of start at the beginning of my journey. So in the same way that I've got swatches for everybody's colours that they've given to me, and those colours document a relationship, a journey, some reason why that colour was selected. So people have often given me things because it's something that's quite sacred to them. It's a sacred place. It's a sacred person. It's a story that is embedded in their life. Sometimes stories that have come from childhood are being embedded now in that colour, which I really, really, I love that. I mean, even people that just sort of said, "Oh, I just picked up this rock. I was on a family holiday and I couldn't think what else to give you." They then started talking about the journey of going to find that rock, and it was with their family, and how important that holiday was, because it was probably the last family holiday that they would have. So every colour has a story, but also every synthetic colour has a story and a relationship. But often the story starts somewhere, starts at the natural colour, and then there was perhaps a competition to try and find a colour that was made synthetically and therefore cheaper and more accessible to replace that colour. Or there's the environmental story. So there's the rivers that are running with toxic pigments, toxic chemicals in order to make that pigment, and often in India and China, where rivers are dying, pigments are kind of sitting at the top of the river and sheltering the water and all the algae is dying, the fish are dying. So there's a story there as well. So there's this. So I'm thinking that in my exhibition, I try to capture that story, that the journey that I went through, and maybe not being. I don't want to be dogmatic. I've never really wanted to tell other people, you've got to live like this, but just charting my own journey to this point where I feel that I have a palette of beautiful colours. And yes, they don't last forever, but nor do I. I'll be 60 soon, and I can enjoy the colours, in the time that I've got left. In my first two modules, I was trying to write a manifesto, and it was about this sense of connecting. It was about what pigments are and how pigments and colours shape our world, but they also destroy it through synthetic pigments. And I was trying to write a manifesto that captured all of that. And in my last module, at the end of it, I was trying to rewrite the manifesto, and got to the point where I couldn't do it. And I realised that it was because I was trying to be dogmatic. I was trying to be logical. I was trying to make a statement about how I ought to live, how I ought to create. But everything that I'm learning, everything that I'm experiencing is about equilibrium, about maintaining equilibrium within the natural world, not staying in one trajectory, not having too many boundaries, but to go with the flow, to change according to circumstances. So I wrote a piece called "This Is Not a Manifesto," and it was very much about connecting with the natural world, but connecting with people, acknowledging that we are kind of 99% bacteria. We and bacteria which use genes like tools, so they'll pick up a gene there if it needs a new gene, and it will dispose of other genes that it doesn't need anymore, and would continually adapting and adjusting to what's out there. So again, I would like an element of that coming into my exhibition. So my my hopes for the exhibition is to take people on a journey, and to start to think about relationships and connections. So although the life palette is very much about my relationships with all these lovely people who've been part of my life, I want the exhibition to be a much bigger picture about our connections with the natural world and with others. So I suppose I haven't really got much further than that, but it has made me feel much more confident that this is more of a cohesive. It will be a more cohesive experience for people, and I was wondering about whether, rather than kind of giving people a this is your membership card to the natural world at the end, I wondered whether I could have sort of places within the exhibition where people could make their own. So they get presented with a card at the beginning, and then they experience a bit of mark making with some of the inks that I've made during the exhibition, and then at the end it's kind of stamped with life member of the natural world, and so they come away with something that they've made, but also something to think about when they go away. So I would like to have a bit of feedback about that as an exhibition idea, and then how do I go about doing it. Thank you for listening.